when you're a quarterback in this league, you want to put pressure on the quarterback, force him into mistakes. Philadelphia doesn't do that. So Mac Jones had a 17-play scoring drive. Cam Newton was 8 for 9. The only incompletion was a drop pass. Philadelphia's starters aren't good. Their backups aren't very good. And their third and fourth string guys, many are not professional football players. Hard to figure out what you watched last night. When you take New England's coaching and coordinating and you combine it with backups and third and fourth stringers for Philadelphia, Mac looked great and Cam looked great. Mac Jones was Pro Football Focus's highest graded player last night, but he was playing against guys. A lot of these guys are not going to be on Philadelphia's roster, and if you can't make Philadelphia's roster, perhaps you're not going to make any roster. So we all know that Mac Jones is eventually going to be the Patriots quarterback. He plays with a lot of poise for a young guy. Could it be soon? Here's my takeaway. Number one is the Patriot coaches are not unveiling Cam Newton, the runner, yet. That will add to this offense. It's a bonus that Mac Jones does not provide. Number two, Cam Newton's a power player. I mean, he really is. This is a power roster. It is not a speed roster. It's not a pretty roster. It's not a finesse roster. Cam matches the roster. Number three is Cam Newton is getting all the first-team reps at practice. So, you know what? My takeaway last night is New England's going to be very boring. They don't have playmakers. But they may be 11-6 and boring because it's the best offensive line potentially they have had in years, especially if Isaiah Wynn can stay healthy. They've got 4 legitimate running backs. The defense is always solid. The head coach and the offensive coordinator are probably the best at their position in the game. And Cam Newton or Mac Jones is going to probably, especially Cam, go 2-0 against the Jets. Never forget this, is that the dynasties for New England, the early and the late dynasties, looked a lot like this team. Let's go to the first dynasty. The receivers were David Givens, Deion Branch, Troy Brown. No elite receivers. The running back was Antoine Smith, who over several years averaged about 800 yards a game. The defenses were stingy. Brady made no mistakes. And they won a bunch of Super Bowls. And the last dynasty before Brady left, let's go back and look at that one. It was Edelman and old Gronk. Brady didn't make a lot of mistakes. The defense was stingy. And like the early Patriot dynasty, the running backs, 3 different leading rushers in 3 different Super Bowl wins. When New England had the playmakers, Randy Moss, Aaron Hernandez, Wes Welker was the best slot receiver in the league. They didn't win any Super Bowls. Those weren't the Super Bowl years. They were good. They broke some records. They were more fun to watch. This roster is a lot like the early and late Super Bowl rosters. I don't even think it matters. I'm dead serious here. I don't think it matters. I think Mac Jones or Cam could both win 10 or 11 games. Now, I think Buffalo is head and shoulders better than both teams right now. Josh Allen's better than Cam and Mac. I think the roster's better. I think Miami and New England's rosters are fairly even, with Miami having more perimeter speed and playmakers. But go look at the schedule right now. I looked at the schedule for New England this morning. Here's 4 guaranteed wins just on coaching and defense. Jets twice, Jacksonville, and Houston. That's 4 wins. Here's 3 feel-like wins. New Orleans, Carolina, and Atlanta, all rebuilding. And then here's 2 that could go either way, but they get both of them at home. Dallas and Tennessee. 4 plus 3 plus 2 is 9. This and the over-under in Vegas is 9. And by the way, last year, New England had the most opt-outs in the NFL. They're all back. They had no preseason for Cam, who got signed late, and then Cam got COVID. So the quarterback situation this year, even though it's Cam, it's better. You have a much better Cam. You have Mac Jones. So I look it up and down at this roster, and there's this big argument who should start. I think the coaches for New England got it right. I think Cam's going to offer a little playmaking Mac can't. Cam's taking the first reps with the first team. And I think Cam, they haven't unleashed his running yet. Cam's a power player. This is a power team. But, I sat and watched the first 2 weeks of the Patriots, and I'm like, this is a lot like Their first dynasty and their second dynasty. Now, the AFC is much better today, and they shouldn't be favored, and Kansas City's better, and Buffalo's absolutely better. But after that, they're in the class with the Chargers, Baltimore, Cleveland. I mean, their coaching, their defense, their offensive line. I don't think it matters who starts. I think this is a 10-win team. And I think if they get some breaks and Mac keeps growing and Cam stays healthy, maybe 11. So it's interesting on the Cowboys. So whenever I'm trying to decipher a story, the most obvious thing to do, you would do it, you try to find people close to an organization or a business who have good sourcing, and what are they saying? So Gil Brandt used to work for the Cowboys, still very connected to the Cowboys. I think he lives in Texas. Came out with a tweet. He said, had a long talk with Dak Prescott yesterday out in Frisco, Texas. He said, I expect him to be out there, but I'm not sure he's going to be 100%. The season tilts on his health. That's what Gil Brandt said. And by the way, remember, Mike McCarthy 3 weeks ago, Dak's playing in the preseason. Then he had a second MRI, and Mike McCarthy said Dak's out for the preseason. Dallas, remember, is very Dak dependent because they don't do a lot of other things well. Their head coach, their defense, their backup quarterback situation. You watched New England last night. They're not as quarterback dependent. A, they have a better coach. B, a much better defense. C, they could start either of those guys. They're not dependent on Cam or Mac Jones. They could each play. The worse your team is, the more dependent you are on the guy that touches the ball 60 times a game. I mean, never forget, Dak was on pace last year in the 4 games he played, started and finished, to throw for 6,700 yards, shatter every NFL record. And they were still 1-3. And the one win was that ridiculous fluke win against Atlanta. Like, Dallas needs to get on the phone. It's called Nick Foles in Chicago, Gardner Minshew in Jacksonville. I mean, I'd go Mason Rudolph in Pittsburgh because it looks like Dwayne Haskins may win the backup job there. This is a very Dak-dependent team. And I hear this all the time. Everybody's quarterback-dependent. You watched New England last night. They're not. That is a coaching, running game, O-line, defensive story. One quarterback past his prime, the other not near his prime. They could win 10 games. They won 7 last year. Now we've added an NFL game, and they're a better roster. So, remember, this is a baseball injury to Dak. It's a shoulder injury, right? That's why the Cowboys contacted the Texas Rangers and the New York Yankees. And pitchers who get this injury, they put them on the shelf. They don't pitch. So add this in. Zeke has been on the decline for 3 years. Defense, new coordinator, new system, lot of young draft picks. They need to make an impact. This thing could blow up. They better get on the phone because this is not a good enough football team to go to a backup quarterback and win 5 games. Washington's better. The Giants should be better. Get on that. Jerry's got a 350-foot yacht. He's got to get on that small little iPhone right now and call the Chicago Bears or the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.